Well, the city of lights, dreams ignite, and dreams were created in the pool and also out of the pool. And in the pool, swimming dominated the night schedule, with the freestyle final taking center stage. Also 10 Caribbean swimmers, 7 men and 3 women were in participation today, with only one advancing, however, from the heats to the semi-final round. Away from the pool, Simone Biles became the most decorated American gymnast in Olympic history. Also, Coco Gauff on the tennis court. Well, she bowed out in questionable fashion, unfortunately, in the singles. But we're here to discuss some of those points, especially as it pertains to swimming. Welcome to We Paddy Prime. I'm Sachin Ramsabag. Joining me on set, first off, Janelle Atkinson and Anna Roberts. Another hectic day of swimming, especially in our night schedule. Janelle, tell us, you're smiling from ear to ear yet again because, of course, you're first and foremost, you're a lover of swimming.
Absolutely, and it's one of those where to see swimming on this large scale every 4 years is so exciting for me, because every time we get more and more traction, more and more people who are interested in the sport, and now with our swimmers doing as well as they are in our region, it only continues to breed more and more swimming Olympians.
Yeah, this has to be a record-breaking time for swimming, especially from a Caribbean perspective. I know 10 swimmers participating in an Olympic Games.
Most definitely, and the one who highlighted it all was Jordan Crooks of Cayman Islands getting into the semi-final. But Lamar Taylor also had a brilliant swim from the Bahamas, getting under 49 seconds, doing 48.80, and some solid swims all around from St. Lucia, Young Smith. And I think St. Lucia, if they can find a fourth swimmer, Janelle, there are 3 swimmers now that are close to 49-50 seconds from the tiny island of St. Lucia. One more and they will have a world-class relay that could start building from Central American Games, Pan American Games into Olympics, hopefully.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, certainly the highlight so far. Well, we are off to a later start today because of the swimming. So let's get right into our first discussion. Now, 10 English-speaking Caribbean swimmers took to the pool early on Tuesday. 6 failed to make progress, which has been the theme so far. But one man disrupted that script. Jordan Crooks of the Cayman Islands made it to the semi-finals of the men's 100-meter freestyle. And let's start by showing you how he advanced this morning.
The men's 100-meter freestyle explodes not only off the blocks, but above the water. Look at that start from Jordan Crooks from the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, Jordan got off to not only a great start off the blocks. Alexi was a little slow off the blocks and has some work to do right now in lane number 4.
Rosé from France also surges, and he's the first at the 50.
And we see much faster splitting, 22.62 at the 50-meter mark. Head down in the third 25. They'll be limiting the breath that they're taking. Alexi coming through now.
Rosé from France, Alexi from the United States. They are battling in the middle of the pool, stroke for stroke. Can the crowd bring Rosé home? They won it, and he comes close but can't deliver the win. It is Jack Alexi from the U.S. who wins heat number 8. Rosé in second, and third is Crooks from the Cayman Islands.
Now we see the big male sprinters come out to play. This is a fast swim now. We're at 47.57 for Jack Alexi. 22.69 at the 50-meter mark. His first 25 wasn't sent.
Well, you heard it there. He advanced from the heats with the 5th fastest time of 48.01 seconds. He then swam 48.10 in his semi-final. Unfortunately, though, he was not good enough to make progress as he exited with 13th best time from that round, unfortunately for him. But I must say, a great representation from a Caribbean perspective, and of course representing the Cayman Islands, that territory, really well, Janelle.
No, absolutely. And it's one of those where I think Jordan right now is our best shot at medaling at these games. And in the 50, I think he'll be a lot more explosive, I'll call it.
Yeah.
In his semi-final, it was one of those where I feel like he went out just the same way, but that last 25 was really where things started to come, was cramp up, and he started swimming small.
Yeah, Anila, he dropped some time, he added some time rather, in the semi-final round. What do you think went on there? Maybe some fatigue kicking in from this morning?
Not maybe, definitely some fatigue. From the first race, you can see it's very difficult for coaches to get it correct, especially with these athletes having to peak and get ready so many times in a year. Sometimes as a coach, you have to take a hard decision and say, listen, we're going to just choose. The Olympics is number one. We're going to battle. We will accept some slower performances in the NCAA championship or some other competition. But clearly, Jordan Crooks, as Janelle said, he's tapered perfectly for the 50. The 100 was about 24 meters too long. He started to tighten up. You could see his head start to jerk. He flattened out. He widened. However, let's focus on the 50, where I think he will get into the final and has a shot. Anybody in the final has a shot at a medal. His start off the blocks, his reaction time, I believe it was a 0.58, but his butterfly kick streamline to break out. He broke out at about 14.75 meters and was ahead.
He was ahead of the pack.
Yes, and that once you have that start in the 50 meter, which is just one length of the pool, you're not breathing, because as you could see when he started to come home and he was breathing, his chin moved a bit, he was breathing backwards. It caused his body to start to rock up and down. Once you can swim straight down 50 meters and you don't have to move that head, it's a whole different ball game. So I'm looking forward to him getting on that podium somehow. He's got a show now. In 1996, there's a Brazilian, Scherer, who came to me after Gustavo Borges of Brazil had won a medal in the 200 freestyle. He had swum at bowls and so on. And this guy, Scherer, came to me at the warm-down pool and he said, Coach, he had Borges' silver medal in his hand. I want this. And I just went to him. I said, okay, brother, get it. Yeah. He grabbed me back. He grabbed me. He said, look in my, I want this. I said, okay, brother, you have to get, if you wanted it. 4 days later, he got into lane one. Bronze medal, silver or bronze medal, Fernando Scherer. That's the kind of passion. Crooks needs to have that sort of attitude. If he gets that, if he has the desire to get on that podium, he's right where he needs to be. The 100 was too long, that's okay. 53, he'll be ready.
Yeah, I saw him say in a post after the heats race that he hit the ball a bit too light. He needed to be a bit more aggressive in that turn. Do you think if he did in fact hit the ball a bit more aggressive, he would have gotten that propulsion needed to be a bit better?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. He's ready to hit the ball. I want him to hit the wall with his hand on a flush touch, 50 meters, 21.45, medal. End of story.
Well, let's hear Jordan's thoughts. We have an interview from him after his race. Let's see.
Jordan, it was quite an electric atmosphere tonight. What was your thought process heading into the race?
Just trying to stay focused on my swim and not really pay attention to the swims around me.
Talk me through that race, because I thought you had a brilliant start.
It was a good start. Finish could have been better, but it's okay. Things happen, and yeah.
Is that something that you'd want to work on in terms of the endurance part of the race?
Just repetition. You learn, live and you learn. So it's a learning experience.
Obviously, you've picked up medals in the short course swimming competitions, but it's something that you'd want to achieve, making it to the final of a long course. But what do you take away from this experience then?
I think takeaways, it is doable. I can compete. Obviously it wasn't my best time, but I think I've been able to hang with the big dogs, and I've learned a lot from swimming on this stage. So yeah.
What do you have to say to Cayman Islands tonight?
Thank you for all the support. I appreciate it.
All the best, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Jordan Rooks poolside there with that interview just moments after exiting the pool. He was clearly breathless, I know, clearly.
Well, breathless and disappointed. You see, it's a lot. But these athletes, it's their life, and they're obsessed, and they focus on everything they eat, how they eat it. When George Bovell is eating, he's telling me in China, in Shanghai, they use some steroids in the cows to get them to grow faster, so he's not eating any beef to make sure that he doesn't test positive for anything. They count their calories, they sleep, they focus. You could see he's a perfectionist on his start to get out there. So that was more disappointment at seeing 48.01 when he knew if he went his best time of 47, he would have been well placed. Also, swimmers are very intelligent. He knows how he felt that last 18. He knew that meant that no matter what, he could try his best in the semi-final, but he didn't have enough to get in. And it showed that in the semi-final, for the first time in history, all 8 swimmers are under 48 seconds. 47.94 was the slowest time going into the final for tomorrow.
Yeah, that was a really hotly contested heat, Janelle. What are your thoughts on him and his interview?
No, I think it's one of those where, I mean, he tried to compose himself as much as possible. The disappointment is definitely there. And it's one of those for that heat, or the semifinal he was in, he already knew that it was going to be faster than the first heat because the world record holder was in that exact same heat who did not have a very good prelim swim. So for him, knowing that that was going to happen, I think maybe a little bit of panic set in that last 25, knowing that, okay, everybody's coming up now because they know. And had he put his hand on the wall and actually raced the field that last 25, I guarantee he would have made it back.
Interesting points indeed from our swimming experts, Janelle and Anil. We're going to take a short break on Vipari Prime. You don't want to miss the next few segments. Stay with us. Yeah, we are on with Vipari Prime. 2024 organizers are now in a scramble for Paris 2024 as they face the heat from all angles. But first, the Caribbean triathletes Tyler Smith of Bermuda and Matthew Wright of Barbados have to wait a little bit longer to compete in the men's triathlon after the event was postponed on Tuesday due to the pollution in the River Seine. Both the men's and women's triathlon races are now scheduled for, get this, Wednesday, with a further contingency day available on the 2nd of August. Paris 2024 organizers have also said that the triathlons could be changed to duathlons as a last resort should water quality fail to improve in the River Seine. Now, that means the swimming leg will be replaced by a second run, which I think, in my opinion, poses a disadvantage, folks, to the athletes who have prepared for 3 separate disciplines. Now, let's talk about that later on in the segment. But Chris, you're very, very disappointed. Janelle as well. I know Anil has a lot to say about that. But Chris, welcome to the show, yet again joining us in segment 2. But the River Seine, over $1.5 billion was spent over a 2 or 3 year period trying to clean this river that has not seen official swimming in it since more than 75 years ago.
Yeah, this is a disgrace. Just another example of the committee, as we've spoken about, the organizers not doing their job, not coming forward and saying what is really so, or maybe they can't. But you think to yourself, a decade should be more than long enough, and not 1.5 billion, 1.5 billion euros were spent. Now, I'm sure if you were to do your research in terms of how much technology or machinery costs in terms of purifying, so on, I don't think you'll come to more than $1 million or $2 million. So I am wondering what was done with that 1.5 billion that they claim was used to purify the water, whatever the means be. But I don't think that little rain that we saw in the opening ceremony, and I mean, persons in the Caribbean are used to heavy downpour, and I don't think that was one of them. I don't think that rain could have created the issues that we are seeing now. This is something systematic that has been around for a long time, problematic. I mean, feces in the water, based on research, is what has been there. How could you expect someone, persons, humans, to be swimming in that kind of scenario? I think it's a total disgrace. It's shocking to me that the organizers would not have had a plan B in place from early. Because obviously this issue, as you said, 75 years since the River Seine has been used for swimming and so on. So it's something that you have known, whether it's the persons who live along the banks, but obviously there is used as to dispose of waste. all along. So, I mean, it's a bit surprising to me that the plan B wouldn't have been in place. I think a duathlon puts a lot of athletes at a disadvantage because many may have swimming as their strongest of the three.
Sure, for sure.
So, it's just another major incident at an Olympic Games.
Now, the fecal bacteria is called E. coli. Janelle, knowing that the history of the River Seine has this E. coli bacteria in it for umpteen years, as a swimmer, you know this, you've been reading it on social media. You don't have to be living under a rock to realize that this has to be an issue. Being a swimmer, would you have even gone into that river, even if they cleared it?
First of all, I'm too much of a snob, and I need my own lane and nobody touching me. So that was never going to even be a factor that I would be swimming open water, ever.
But from a swimmer's perspective,
yes.
though, I mean, the bacteria in the water, you know it's there. Even if they come on Wednesday morning and say, hey, we've cleared it up, it's under the 900 threshold, would you still have that in the back of your mind, hey, this is full of feces?
You know what? As an athlete, I would. And it's one of those I would hope that all the other athletes would be too scared to want to do it. And then by means of that, I would end up on the podium.
Interesting.
Well, I don't
Mr.
know
Roberts,
about...
we've heard about eau de toilette,
Yes.
but this has to be a case of eau de toilette.
Eau de toilet and eau de nonsense. You were talking about feces and E. coli. Let me tell you something. Open water swimming, as it suggests, you swallow water because you're swimming in waves. You're not in that pool. Well, that pool looks wavy. We'll talk about that later. But you're swimming in waves. You're swimming with people clamoring all over you, hitting you, elbowing you. You are going to swallow. Some swimmers could swallow up to half a liter of water during a 5-kilometer swim, however long it is. Why were they insisting on swimming in the Seine? It seems that the organizers just have some message that they want to force down our throats, and no matter what, they're going to give it us. There were complaints being made. There were complaints lodged. The Paris mayor went to swim in the feces water to show us about 6 days before the Olympic. It's clean, and it's not clean. So why? France is such a big, beautiful country. They could swim anywhere. They could swim in the sea. They could have moved the race to Nice. They could have done it on the coast. What are they insisting on? Number one. Number two, duathlon is best you say, well, let's enter Formula One. Duathlon and triathlon is two different sports. It's not the same sport. I can't train for triathlon. You reach Olympics and say, oops, it's a duathlon. Okay, well, let me train for 100-meter dash and then tell me, no boy, any question, jump on a horse. These people have to be mad. A duathlon is not a triathlon. Move it, measure a course somewhere else, down in a nice part, on the French Riviera, and let the people swim and run the race there.
No,
what madness.
I think it has a lot to do with the touristic destination of Paris. I understand what you're saying, but the course was plot to run and ride into the very scenic touristic destinations in Paris. But the marathon swimming, though, may move to the canoeing venue, which can hold 15,000 spectators. And it's
yeah, I mean, whoopee for the spectators. But what about the athletes who are prepared 4 years, a lifetime, for an opportunity to represent their country, nation, self at an Olympic Games? Now, as we said, the French would have known, 10 years in advance that they were going to host the Olympics. It was recorded that, 2 years ago is when they really started to pay attention to the River Seine. Albeit it hasn't been swimming for 75 years, but they decided only 2 years before the event that they were going to then pay some attention, spend 1.5 billion euros.
But I think
what happened to that other 8 years?
Is the optics, and that's why they chose the Seine, because it would be such a wonderful opportunity and such wonderful pictures.
Well, there's no optics.
But at the end of the day, it's one of those, what are we putting our emphasis on? Is it the athletes, or is it the optics, and is it the spectators? We're here because of the athletes. The spectators would not be here if there were no athletes. So let's put the primary, focus on the athletes and their safety and health.
Now, the doctors have said that this bacteria that causes some gastrointestinal issues if ingested, healthy people actually have some small amounts in their intestines already, but just healthy. Remember, athletes
but we
go
don't
through
want
so
that
much
leader.
training.
But Sachin, we shouldn't
my
even
point.
be discussing
Exactly.
this. That should have been an option.
It should not have been an option. Full
The
stop.
athletes should never have to even consider something like that. I
Correct.
mean, there's bacteria and everything, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
to the levels we're saying, whether it's 900 milliliters, 1,000, come on, why are we even into that? As Anila said, there are so many areas around France, they could have chosen, at this stage, no, without a plan B. Their plan B is a duathlon, which to me is a known.
Well, the
is
plan B
nonsense.
is a different day, but that shouldn't
And a
even be an
different
option.
event. So why would they not before, knowing the history of the River Seine, come up with, say, 3 options? Okay, we're going to come out of Marseille and change the course. Because no, what has happened is you can't just swim from everywhere because you have to have a course. Because then you have to go to the cycling and the running.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to put swimming last instead of first and say, well, you finish at the water and then swim.
Not only
Yeah, but
that,
that would be
Sachin,
just
let me
as
tell
disastrous.
you. Let me just explain to the people. Swimming is the slowest of the 3 disciplines. You swim, you get out, you jump on your bike, you ride, then you get off your bike, put it there, and you run. Now, the race, when you swim, a runner can't swim. So if I swim in, I'm going to open up a lead on that runner,
Correct.
and then I go in on the fastest thing, the bike, to open that gap on that runner, so that when I come off my bike, I have a 2-3 minutes on the runner who could run, so he can't catch me. If you take away my swim, you've taken away my race. It's not a triathlon. It's a different sport. There are different muscle systems. A duathlon, run, ride, run, is different training. It's better for athletes with different
Horrific.
skills, and
Horrific.
it makes no sense. I've never seen this. This is the Olympics, and they are treating it like it's some parlor. I
And men
don't
still
even
keeping their
understand.
jobs. So they firing all kind of people all over the place, and you're doing
Correct.
foolishness like this.
They firing
Feces
people for
in a
talking about
river.
makeup and things. And look at this.
We're not
These are-
going back there. No, we're not touching that.
Speaking of fire, it's been extremely
Crazy.
heated in Paris 2024, and organizers have been really struggling to deal with the wave of complaints about the heat. Now, the problem has been compounded because the athletes' village is, get this, without air conditioning units, and organizers had originally decided to not have AC units in the village as part of their commitment to a greener games, and insisted that the rooms would stay cool on their own through a geothermal water system. However, now
Flop
that
again.
temperatures rising, athletes are complaining. Some nations like the host France have been allowed mobile air conditioning units at their own expense. But what about the others? Now, air conditioning units expel some CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons and hydrochlorocarbons. Now, these carbons make a major impact on the ozone layer. So understand that fact. Now let's go to the next point, which is the
Which we have
athletes.
always known.
No,
Which we have
we have
always
always known that. Now the athletes themselves now are being put at risk because of this heat. Yes, the temperatures in Paris are
36
coming down.
degrees.
They're coming down in the nighttime. So the nighttime, I don't think the athletes will have much of an issue with it. Some of them actually wear hoodies and jackets at night. But now we're seeing that the temperatures are soaring above 36 degrees Celsius.
Sachin, let me ask you something. The other citizens in Paris have air conditioning?
I am not sure.
What you come
I'm sure
to
it's not a
put
green
athletes-
country.
You come to put athletes in an Olympics under pressure for you to make a political statement. Listen, athletes need comfort. They have trained their entire lives. All is on the line. They are here to rest and relax. When it's 36 degrees and you're sweating, your heart rate is elevated, you're working, you're tiring out yourself.
Here comes the science.
It's not good for performance. The whole idea of the Olympics and winning a bid is to make the athletes comfortable. Somehow Paris Organizing Committee believes that this is just a stage to send political messages, to tell us that we must have more genders than they are, that God make, to tell us that we must swim in tutu water, and to tell us now that our athletes must be uncomfortable because they think that they want to send a message about a green earth. Well, if you want to send a message about a green earth, go out there with Greenpeace and protest all the factories across the board, all the aluminium smelters and so on. This is nonsense. You cannot have athletes sweating and overheating like that. Our whole concept between semifinals is to recover. You need to recover cool, comfort, sleeping.
We can't always, but we're talking about, okay, they want a greener society, greener country and so on, but yet we have that problem with the River Seine. Well, that goes against all forms of hygiene and greenness then. If you're going to have pollution in the rivers that is transporting the waters to everyone around the country and so on. So, I mean, let us be straight about this. As I said, the purpose of the Olympic Games is, yes, accommodate and so on, but also to make athletes and the fraternity comfortable at the same time. Now, to have 36-degree weather and the athletes are exposed to that, you're causing illness on the athletes, lack of performance.
Correct.
I mean, that can't be the way to go.
2005 CAC Games in Colombia. I reached down there with George Bovell, and his father was the manager for the CAC Games. We reach in the village, Sachin. 6 men in our room. The door opening, the bathroom door opening to where George Bovell, 6'5", had to sleep on a bed that is 6 foot. I went to the chef de mission. I said, good afternoon, sir. George Bovell is here. I said, manager, George Bovell II, you have your credit card? He said, yes, sir. I said, chef, you'll check us in the Hilton. This boy is going there to sleep because you have to be comfortable. You don't do that. It is absolutely not on. And France allowing their athletes to have air condition, that is an advantage. That is bad hosting. That is inappropriate. That is unfair.
Well, I saw a report as well that the Jamaican team have also ordered some AC units for their athletes. I'm not too sure if it's at their expense, but of course, the athletes, and I totally 100% agree with you, the athletes need to be comfortable in order to achieve their optimum success.
It's basic.
Yeah, but you know what though, hold on. This is one of those things where, and I'm not backing France at all on this, I'm just going to point out that every Olympics there's always problems, there's always issues, right? In Sydney, I don't know how many people knew this, but they had trailers. I stayed in a trailer. So it's one of those things where, again, we're looking at all these different things, and yes, we want to bash France and say, oh, there's foolishness. You're asking me?
But were the trailers comfortable? As in, did they have their...
It's a trailer.
All right. Describe it, but what was the purpose?
You have some people who fix up trailers nice enough.
No, they didn't have enough room, so they had trailers stationed in different areas, and that was it. You were in a trailer.
Well,
AC?
No.
Someone who I'm sure is not sleeping in a trailer is Alex Jordan, and she's in Paris and linking up with us and joining the discussion. Alex, I'm sure you're not sleeping in a trailer.
I hope she has AC.
Oh, Sachin, maybe I might get better sleep in a trailer. How are you guys doing?
Well, that's interesting, but we were discussing about the heat issue. 36 degrees feels like temperature going above 39. What's the feeling like on the ground?
It's very hot. It is very hot. Actually, I remembered this week when I felt the heat that Tokyo was also very hot. But we've got a couple of things going on here at Paris 2024, as you know. One is, I heard you discussing how much do we love Anil Roberts. Anil, you've been killing me, man. Paris is trying to put on the Green Olympics, right? So there are lots of green choices, being gentle to the planet. But I think what we're missing in the Caribbean is that culturally, the French do not use air conditioners. This is away from anything being green. They believe it's bad for your health. So you'll go to an office and there'll be fans on, and not AC. You know, we get on the buses here and it is absolutely stiflingly hot. And you'll notice that the French won't even get up to open the windows of the bus. It will always be a foreigner who's like, can anyone else not breathe? So I think we've got a few things happening at the same time. We have Paris 2024 endeavoring to be a clean Olympics in terms of energy and being gentle on the planet. But we also have a culture in France where they don't use AC. And I mean, not on a bus, not in a taxi, not in an office, and certainly not where we're staying. You know, I went to the Athletes Village, and we're staying, SportsMax team is staying at the Media Village, which, you know, is comparable to the Athletes Village. It's probably just a little less nice, I would say. But we have the same cardboard beds, and we have fans. Actually, I wonder if y'all can hear my fan on now, because it's boiling in this room, and we had to turn on the fan, or I'd be sweating it down. So we have a couple of things going on here together, which is making it uncomfortable. And I'd just like to add, I am a person, ladies and gentlemen, who sleeps anytime. If I am suffering grief, if I'm depressed, if I'm nervous, I sleep. And for the first time in my life, I'm struggling to sleep. So that's my explanation for the bags under my eyes.
The bags are not showing too
Right,
much.
you're looking good.
The bags are not showing too much, Alex. You're looking in good touch. But you've been among the athletes as well for a few days. Now the issue of the Seine River possibly not playing a part in the triathlon probably converting to a duathlon. What's the feeling like from the athletes, if any?
You know, I've been in touch with Matthew Wright, who is the Barbadian triathlete, up to the night before. I guess that would be last night now. He felt he was going to be doing the triathlon in the morning. I saw him post on Facebook to his people to say, hey, make sure you all tune in. So I sent him a message to say, well, we heard that it was being postponed. According to Matthew Wright, they got that message at 4 o'clock this morning that it was definitely postponed. So a real stress on the athletes. When you think about an event like the triathlon as well, you know, this is a high pressure, high skill, high energy event where when you sleep, what you eat, all of that matters down to the minute. That, you know, this is the life of an athlete. This is the biggest stage. So a real disaster. We've had a few hiccups in Paris 2024. And this is another one. But I want to assure you guys, of course, even though it's almost midnight here, we haven't had dinner yet. We will be up at 5 a.m. and we'll be down tracking the triathlon for the people of the Caribbean.
Had dinner yet?
Well, Alex, you hadn't had dinner yet. I hope you do have something to snack on, though. But thank you very much for joining us. We're going to keep in touch with you as the days proceed. And now, Anil, you've been trying to figure out why the times in the pool have been so slow at the Paris 2024 Games, and it seems you've made somewhat of a breakthrough, a revelation.
He's cracked it.
I want to thank my coaching colleague from Trinidad and Tobago, Mark Pouchette, because he heard us on SportsMax. He heard me because I was wondering what is going on. Why are these times so slow? Why, when I'm watching the swims, why is the pool behind the swimmers so wavy as they pass? Normally you get accustomed when you have, people must understand, long ago, 1972 and so on, you're swimming in a pool with a box. So the ball, the waves bouncing off the wall, the lane ropes, so just a string with a float. So when you're going fast there, you're like swimming in open water. Since then, technology has changed. You've got flow over guttering. So when you dive in and the waves go this way, they go out of the pool and fall down. You have lane ropes, those big fat lane ropes. When a wave hits them, they spin and they make the wave settle down. So I was noticing in the back of these shots from 2024 Olympics, it was like wavy, and I'm wondering, what is this going on? Because I'm not seeing that for the last 20 years.
Now, don't make your revelation yet.
All right.
Don't make your revelation yet, because we do have a comparison video, so you can make your point even stronger, from Rio 2016.
Right.
Now, this video possibly you looking on at home, you may actually see the difference between this video and the highlights that we've been showing over the last few days.
Okay, look now at, the swimmers, powerful, big swimmers. Now, I want you, if the camera can show, when you look about 10, 15 meters after the swimmers have, you see behind the swimmers, behind the sign that shows you the speed, look how the pool is kind of calming down 20 meters behind, how it's easing off. Now, that's Rio, right? Rio, look how smooth, but on this right-hand side, you see Paris. Paris is wavy. Look behind the swimmers in Rio, you're seeing it calming down so that when they turn, they're coming back through smooth water. Now look on the right side, and you're seeing it rough as if you're at Maracas Bay or out here in Kingston Harbor when the breeze is blowing. And that's been slowing down the swimmers. And Mark Pouchette from Trinidad and Tobago has sent me the reason why, Janelle. Look at the Rio picture when the camera is underwater. The pool is deep. I remember Sachin asking me, but how deep is that pool?
Yeah.
And I looked and
because it's a temporary pool.
Look how deep Rio is on the left. That is about 3.5 meters.
you can see the difference.
So therefore, greater volume of water, greater depth. So the waves move and dissipate. They don't bounce back up. But in Paris, the depth of the pool is 2.19 meters, and the official World Aquatics depth right now approved is 2.5 meters. So they are swimming in a shallow pond. When these powerful athletes with huge kicks drive and the waves, the vibrations, and the water moves down, comes back up, 8 swimmers bouncing back up, you're swimming like outdoor, Janelle.
Yeah, and you know what? Lamar Taylor said that in his interview this morning, saying that when he came off of that off of the turn, he actually hit the wake, and that's what slowed him down that third 25. So it's interesting hearing it from the athlete perspective of how much they're actually feeling all this wake coming in.
But my question is, if you have a guide from the World Aquatic Center, the association, of 2.5 at least, more and more than that should be 3, and Rio 3.5, why would you be at 2.19? Why would you be low at minimum at an Olympic Games? I don't understand that. Who would have authorized something like that? Again, the person is keeping their job.
And you see what happens recently. Okay, swimming is becoming more popular. We want to sell more tickets. Great. The U.S. trials was held in a American football stadium in Indianapolis, where the Indianapolis Colts come. So the Murtha pools is like a jigsaw puzzle, an aluminum pool. They come and they build it up like a puzzle, 2 pools, put a pump and so on and swim, then take it down when the competition is done. But
at what
you
depth,
spend
though?
your money and you get a 3 meter, 3.5 meter. The U.S. trials was blistering fast, world records and so on. I'm not sure whether France was trying, Paris Olympic Committee, they were over budget and they tried to cut costs or whatever. But why would you swim in a shallow pool? I cannot believe it. I knew something was wrong, Sachin.
Yeah.
But Mark Pouchette, Trinidad and Tobago coach, thank you. The pool is too shallow.
Too shallow. Simple point indeed. Maybe if they took a portion of the 1.5 billion spent in the Seine and created a deepened pool, we might have some world records. Because we did have a few Olympic records. We don't have any world records this year, though, unfortunately. Well, we're going to take a short one and come back with more discussions on We Paddy Prime. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back. You are viewing We Paddy Prime, arguably the greatest, I wouldn't say arguably, the greatest female 100-meter sprinter of all time is getting ready for her 5th and final Olympic Games. The legendary Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce starts her quest for a record 5 consecutive 100-meter Olympic medal when she gets on the event, when that gets going on Friday. Now, fans were under the impression that this would be her final global appearance. However, in a recent interview, the 38-year-old made it quite clear that this will be her last Olympics, but left the door open to continue beyond 2024. So should Fraser-Pryce call it a day after Paris? J. Hugh Gordon joins us for this discussion. A very, very, very borderline question. 38 years of age, the body taking a toll, but Fraser-Pryce looks in good shape.
If Shelly-Ann is to continue after this year, I guess consistency will have to play a big part. As she gets older in age, we've seen that she started competing less and less. This year, she opened up her season at the National Championships, qualifying for her 5th Olympic Games. I remember earlier in the year, she said, "My son needs me." And if you hear somebody come out and say that, you would know the amount of time, the amount of dedication that is required to qualify or even compete at a very top level. So the Olympics is every 4 years. It is not like the World Championships or Pan Am Games, etc. That would be less time required to prepare for it. So I would say she is probably getting ready for a little bit more of family time. Her son is there. Maybe she wants to have more kids in the near future. But she has done her due diligence with regards to the sport. No one can take that away from her. And I would say, give us another year or two to see the Queen grace us and even help motivate the younger ones coming up. Run a relay, run a 4x1, just be around and help inspire the future generation.
Interesting that you made that point of her being around the future generations, maybe her transitioning from performing as an athlete now into probably a mentor or a coaching role. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm sure she's always had that kind of personality that, has encouraged younger athletes. I think I could see her being on the sidelines, helping a lot of athletes to progress, hone their skills and so on. Not quite 38 yet. I know her birthday is in December, but you think to yourself that at 37 years of age, how longer can she continue to perform at that level? The level required to get on the podium. It's always, I think it's always a skill from top athletes, top sportsmen and women, in terms of knowing when to say goodbye. It's obviously a very difficult thing for athletes because the crowd, the fanfare, the adrenaline of competing and so on. But in everybody's career, there's a time to say thank you very much and goodbye. And many athletes struggle with that. I'm not saying that Shelley is struggling with that currently, but that is something that you always have to look out for. And we've seen in many sports, it's still happening, where athletes struggle to say that goodbye. Now, you may look at it and you say, well, Tokyo is just next year, 2025, that's the World Championships. I think that's what she's referring to when she said it's her last Olympics, and she made that clear. So within a year, you might say, if she's still injury-free, and if she does well in this, for example, and gets to a final or wins a medal and is performing at that standard, you would think that a year is not that far away. So maybe Tokyo, but I think after that I couldn't really see her going much further. I mean, yeah.
I think Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce deserves something different, something new. I think if she's about to retire, there should be a retirement tour across the Caribbean. Yes, she's Jamaican. Jamaica love her, but the whole Caribbean loves her, and she gives us pride. So all the promoters, all the track and field specialists have a meet in Trinidad and Tobago in the Hazy Crawford Stadium, one in Grenada, one in Bahamas, one in Jamaica, one in St. Lucia, Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce, just like how Kobe Bryant had a year, one last season. Everywhere he went, people could buy tickets to see Kobe Bryant one last time. I think that would be fitting. And she decides when she wants to hang up the spikes. That's cool, but she is...
That's something we've struggled with as a region, though.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you have to go back West Indies cricket.
Oh,
I mean, West Indies cricket is the only thing that puts all of us together, in all of the Caribbean together in one team. But it's been something that just generally as a unit, sometimes we struggle with. How to say goodbye to our legends? What's the right way to have a party to commemorate their brilliance? And so that is always something to think about. I agree that maybe North America and some other regions have done a better job of that over time. And so I think that it still be a struggle for, I mean, yes, we love the athletes and so on, but it's almost like, okay, they're finished, all right, bye. And that's the kind of feeling which is wrong. Yeah,
yes,
we have to do better as a region.
Correct.
In terms of celebrating, no matter where you're from, whether it's Antigua, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Barbados, wherever. I think in terms of celebrating legends and making them feel that what they did is not the norm is very important for even the mental wellness of athletes as they transition into another aspect of life.
Yeah, brilliant indeed, brilliant, for sure. Jihu made the point of maybe Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce is looking to spend a bit more time with her family, and being an athlete is a full-time job, but being a mom is also a full-time job, so that certainly has to be playing on her mind.
I would say so. At her age, she's looking to settle down, really. Not to say that she is not settled. She's married, she has a husband there, she has one kid, and I'm sure a couple could probably be on the horizon for her. Yeah, she wants to spend a quiet time having to deal with the mental stress that is required from track and field. It is a lot to deal with, and given that she's been at the pinnacle for so many years, at some point she would need some form of breather.
Yeah, we spoke on the mentoring aspect of Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce. One, Michaela Blythe from New Zealand, a rugby sevens player. And by the way, she is a rugby legend in New Zealand, in rugby sevens. Actually has Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce as her hero. So even heroes have their own hero. And we saw on social media, trending all over the world, that Michaela got a follow from Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce on Instagram, and that sent her berserk. So again, Chris, it shows the mentality of Fraser-Pryce, that she can certainly be a mentor, not just for young athletes, but also even athletes who are experiencing their prime.
No, and top athletes will always look up to athletes who have been there, done that, and as I said, on a repeated basis. Just remember, Blythe she does help the Kiwis to lift a gold medal again in rugby sevens. I mean, they just won rugby sevens at the Olympic Games, and yet, as you say, came in as a favorite, gold medals in Tokyo and in Paris, and yet she still has that mindset. And as I said, we have seen our Caribbean athletes when they go outside. Usain Bolt, before he retired, he was wanted in every country. He was asked to start games in the Bernabeu, start games in Australia. They wanted him in the Football League. Not because he was an outstanding footballer, I'm sorry you're saying, but because of what he would bring to the environment. Tickets would be sold, people would come to the fans, all of that, which is an important part of our sport. And I'm saying in the region, we need to get on board with that kind of mindset, understanding that what these people are doing across the world is no small feat. And obviously, the people in New Zealand and all around the world can appreciate what Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce has done for not track and field alone, but for sport and in terms of Blythe, for women in sport. And I think that that's a big deal. And as I said, sometimes we take it in the Caribbean a little bit too lightly, but we are small, or in the Jamaicans we say we're little and we talawa, but we are small, but what we do is humongous, Herculean.
Absolutely brilliant indeed. Now, if she decides to go to the World Championships in a few months' time, next year I think it is, the point, Jehu, is it's a logical one. Can she make the team though, with the young talents that are coming up and nipping at her, and of course not nipping at her, but nipping at the entire team and looking for their spot at glory?
I will watch to see how she performs after the Paris Games this year. She will know the state that her body is in. Injuries is something that could happen at any time, and given her age, the chances of injuries would be a lot more likelier. But I'll give it until Paris to finally make a decision as a coach before we make a final decision.
Now, I hear Jehu talking, and he would have gone through what maybe Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is facing now in terms of retirement.
Decision making.
And I mean, my question to Jehu is, when that moment came for you where you had to consider it, think about it, what were the things what was that feeling like? I mean, what did you have to go through to think that all the things that you've been training for doing all these years, you're now going to have to say, well, I have to attack it from a different perspective?
Well, one thing that has happened, one, is we associate our image as the sport. So a lot of athletes see themselves as the sport itself instead of something that they do. So it is very hard for, when you reach that time to retire, to actually give up the thing that everybody know you for. So you see a lot of athletes, they're depressed. Some athletes, they find jobs after and they're still not satisfied. They are not driven in the same way. And that is probably one of the main contributing factors. Outside of the fact that, well, you're not going to make anywhere as close to the amount of money that you would have made when you were involved in the sport.
Well, Fraser-Pryce will always remain a legend, whether she chooses to continue for 2 months, 2 years, or even 2 decades. She will always be a legend in her sport. Let's take a look at the medal table at the end of Day 4, Paris 2024. And this can be interesting. Of course, the Australians were leading up until Sunday. And in top of the table with the most goals, Japan with 7. China second with 6 goals. 3 is Australia with 6. And 4th spot, the host nation France with 5 goals. And 5th spot, closing off the top 5, Republic of Korea with 5 gold medals. 13 in total for Japan, 14 for China, 17 for Australia, 18 in total for France, 11 for Republic of South Korea. And closing off the top 10 down there, Hong Kong with 2 gold, 1 bronze, and 3 in total.
First time in history that the USA is so low down on goals on the medal table after 4 days. First time.
Do you think it has a lot to do with the Ripple pool?
Well, it has a lot to do with the swimmers have not been performing up to mark, and Australia and Italy and other countries are taking them to see. Ireland took a gold. South Korea so high up with gold medals. I know probably from archery and so on.
I was about to say,
this is new. This is a changing times.
Did we see this coming at least for the last 2 or 3 Olympics? Do a change in the guard, really?
Yes, it's coming. More competition.
It's not just swimming. When you look at a lot of the other sport that maybe the Americans have dominated in other countries coming up to stepping up to the plate as well.
Chris, I wish we could have more time to discuss. Unfortunately, we are out of time for this discussion. I want to thank J. Hugh Gordon, Chris Taylor, Anil Roberts, and of course earlier General Atkinson. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us in this discussion. This has been We Paddy Prime. We continue tomorrow. We'll see you soon.
De chaque nation nous venons pour rivaliser. Avec passion et courage, nos cœurs sont élevés.